Generally, you're not going to have to do anything with this, so don't think you got to worry too much about this, but this application insights config is going to actually create the link between your project and the resources. The way it does that is it's going to use something called this component ID. So you can see this component ID, and it's also going to use something very similar called the account ID. So these two GUIDs are actually going to match between, so this GUID actually lives on my application insights resource on Visual Studio. So the two of them are there, and it's going to, and that's how it's going to talk to one another. And I can show you exactly where those live. Those are going to be over here. So you can see this little gear here. This is called the control panel. This control panel will spawn a new window. You can see I'm still in my same resource. Come over to keys and downloads. This is where a lot of the information is going to live. So this is where you can actually add keys if you wanted to drop application insights onto a server box. If you had an IIS server, you could drop an application insights collector on there and start feeding data over to Visual Studio Online or into Azure. You could drop it onto a Java server if you want, or any of that kind of information. You can see here as I scroll down, you can get server agent keys. You can get Java agent keys, JavaScript code. So if I wanted to drop this into, sorry, let me escape that for a second. If I wanted to drop this code into an Angular page and start tracking Angular data and push it out to Visual Studio Online or into Azure, I could do that. So, and this is just a script that's going to just sit in the header of your page, and it's just going to start gathering data. You can see I can do Windows Phone pages, Windows stores, and web services. Now, if you look here within the Windows Store ID, you can see a similar key. So, ending in E320. If I go back to my project, you can see that same key is here. And that's how the two are linking up. I will, on the next version, when I talk about Azure, I'll actually show you how to actually grab that key and actually drop it into a project so we can actually start manipulating it a little bit. So that's how the two are talking to one another. All right, this is all fun, it's all good. But there's, I just want to make sure I'm getting everything for you guys here. What if we want to track actual data? Before I do that though, I want to just show you that this project does not have to only be, you don't only have to do this with an existing project. Or sorry, with a brand new project. You can see here that I have an existing project. It's just called Windows App None. There's nothing there. It's the exact same project I had before without the application insights information. If I wanted to add application insights to this, you can see I got this right here. Add application insights telemetry to the project. So if I had a project in a Windows app that I built 6 years ago, or well, more like 2 years ago, and I wanted to add some AI insights into it, I could do that. I don't have to rebuild the project and migrate the code. I can just right-click the project and add it, as long as I have the SDK installed. It'll start gathering data as of today. So don't think you got to reinvent the wheel to add this stuff in. If I do that, it's just going to give me the exact same information. A little bit different. I can still add to a different resource. You can see here that if I wanted to combine my previous project with this now existing project, I can combine them into the same resource if I wanted, so I wouldn't have to create a brand new resource. But you can also see too that there's an existing resource already called AI Windows App None. So it's found that for me, and it would actually start piping some data into there for me. Simple click of this button, it won't bother doing it because it's going to take a while. But we'll just add the exact same insights config there. It's going to add the same NuGet calls, and you're up and running again. So again, it's not that complex to get this up and running. That's great. We know how to do that. What if we want to log some basic data? within Application Insights and any of this kind of stuff, you can actually log directly from your code, or you can actually hook up Log4Net if you want. So you can actually start hooking up anything from Log4Net or system.trace. If you want to capture any of that information, you can actually start pumping that data into Visual Studio Online or Azure. So as we start working through that, I'll show you what that means. All right. What are we going to do? Let's go and add some code. So I just have a little bit of information here that I want to add in. And you can see, if I go in and add this to the app center. So if you don't know XAML and you don't know Windows Store apps, don't fret. It's nothing too crazy. It's all pretty similar, but I just want to point out a few things. This namespace here is going to actually start allowing me, with those native methods, it's going to actually start allowing me to start putting unique log event into VSO or into Azure if I wanted to. This namespace here, ending here, this is what's unique. And I'm pointing it out because using a using statement sometimes worked for me and sometimes it didn't. So I'm expressly naming, and I'm expressly putting the namespace in. So just keep that in mind, and I will share all these slides and I'll put all this data out. Putting it in the using statement, sometimes it found it, sometimes it didn't. You can also see too over here, something that looks like a GUID. Now this GUID is from a previous project that I was working with, but I already know which GUID I'm going to need, so I'm going to actually go back to my project and go grab my GUID. So if I come down here and I go into the Windows 8.1 Store SDK, I'm going to actually grab this GUID. This GUID is going to allow me to log information, unique information from this project into Visual Studio Online. So you can see that I have that installed. A couple more quick things I'm just going to drop in. I'm going to just drop in a quick button, and I'm going to put that in my main page.xaml. And you can just see it's just a basic button that says click me. Nothing too crazy, but it is going to call a method on the back end. And that method is going to, if I can get this down here. So this method, it's going to raise a message box. So it's going to raise actually a message dialog saying I'm raising a message box. It's going to show it asynchronously, and then it's going to launch a web page. And it's going to log all of that information with a message says that new browser window has been opened. So nothing too crazy. I just wanted to have a series of events that's actually going to work, and that's actually going to show some data on the other side. So I'm going to save all this, and I'm going to run it. So you can see I have my button here, my click event. If I click this, it raises my message box. As soon as I hit close, it's actually going to open it's going to open the Google homepage. Nothing too crazy. I don't know why you'd ever want to do that, but I guess if you ever want to raise a help event, I'm not sure. I just wanted a series of events that were kind of simple. I come back to my Visual Studio Online. I'm going to actually close this guy. Don't need it anymore. If I go back into my resource, and I just want to highlight this too. Every time you come back and you refresh this page, it's always going to jump to the top resource. So if you're not seeing things, make sure you're on the right resource, because it'll always default to the top level resource. I mean, you could delete it, I guess, if you wanted to, but just make sure you're always on the right one. So if I go back to this resource, you can see that it's logged the second event a minute ago, and it's also raised the unique error message that the new browser window has been opened. Nothing too crazy. I mean, I can click on this and it'll take me back to the streaming page. and you can see the exact same information. I mean, comes in handy, I guess, if you want to start logging all your data, all your Log4Net data into Visual Studio Online, or start trapping all of that information. It's nice to know it's there, definitely. What I just did, is all being done under debug mode. So this is one of the caveats. When you go to push publish on these projects, on your website, or however you have Visual Studio or Application Insights installed, so on this website or on this Windows Store app, you're going to normally release in debug mode, in release mode. Once it hits release mode, it's going to be not minutes or seconds, it's going to be hours before stuff starts coming in. So just keep that in mind. If you start releasing it and you push it up to a web server and you're not seeing that aggregate data, just give it time. It's going to take a while. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but that's one of the caveats that Microsoft's telling people. Just make sure that if you're in release mode and you've pushed it, you've hit publish, that it's out there. It's going to take a while for it to start aggregating. A couple more things I want to show you before we take a quick break here. The other thing, and I'm going to actually go to one of these existing projects. This guy. Some of the other cool things that you can find on here, you can see that there's all kinds of tabs. So you can see that there's the availability tab, performance, usage, diagnostics, and then there's a whole subset underneath here. These are all different things that you can add within these projects. So you can add an application if you want. Application is just basically a secondary or almost like an add-on that you can to be able to trap things. And if you go into add application here, you can kind of see some of the things that you want to collect. So you can collect data from a server component, and there's a whole wizard here that will run you through whatever it is that you want to add. You can trap data on servers. You can do special alerts, and I'm going to talk about special alerts in a sec in the Azure portion, just because there's some neat stuff that's been invented on the Azure side that doesn't exist over here. Availability, so you can do what's called web tests, or a single URL test. And again, I'm going to do that on the Azure side just because the interface is a little nicer. But this will allow you to ping your URL from anywhere in the world. So you can say, I'm a user from Houston and I'm a user from Singapore. Can they both get to my website? And again, this is all built in, it's all free. You don't have to worry about, there's no problems with this. And you can actually schedule these as well. And you can do email notifications if something's down, or sensitivities. And again, I'll talk about that in a few minutes. You can set up server performance monitoring. So again, you can drop all this on a web server if you want. The thing that I want to quickly show you was the usage stuff. And I hope it still lives here because it doesn't kind of blows what I want to talk about. Oh, I'm in the wrong one here. I want to be in this one. I want to go to environments. Nope. Okay. I ran some of these yesterday, hoping that they were going to be there. And they're not there. So let me go to the website. And I want that from here. I'll see if I can generate some of this information. Maybe this information has been generated here. No, it takes a while to come in. Sorry about that. I wanted to show you this, and I'll try and generate this quickly during the break. The environment information, as you could probably see on the AI test stuff, this is where you would find everything about your users coming into Visual Studio Online. So this is where you would see operating systems, screen resolutions, browsers. You could even target how long they live on your pages. Any of that information you wanted to know about. What kind of languages they're coming in as. Are they coming in as English or French or any of that kind of information. So, and how long they're living. And so you can target your websites and your actual apps to these various operating systems and target the 90% if you want. So that's basically it for Visual Studio Online. I'm going to take, I think, a quick break there. Sure. Sure.
So is there a way to push log messages up as well, or does it just have a certain set of data on
You mean custom log messages?
Yeah, they're custom log messages.
So that's basically what I was doing when I was showing that that special namespace.
Oh, okay.
That's my own custom log messages.
Oh, okay.
If I had log4net on there, I could hook log4net into it and start logging log4net messages as well, or system.trace messages, or
Exceptions, you can go exceptions.
I'm trying to think, what's the other one besides log4net? Elma. I think you can hook Elma on to it as well. So,
Thanks.
yes, sir.
What if you're on a 32-bit machine? Can you still use this at all, or like can you compile for?
Yes, yeah. I just choose 64 just because I'm in the habit of choosing 64.
Right, but I thought you said it only worked with 64. Or you're saying it only worked with?
It can't be on any CPU. So as long as
okay,
so
understood.
you can put it on 32 if you want. I just chose 64.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Understood.
There's no one or the other. So it'll work for both.
Okay, just another quick question
Sure.
too. What about like other apps that aren't like applications that aren't like Windows Store apps?
Yes.
So like you want to make like a .NET application basically.
Sure. Yeah.
Same
So
basic thing.
yeah. So when I created my project, I didn't show it just because I'm using a lower process here. But if I go new project, you can see that I have the add application insights right at the moment. If I go universal apps, it's gone. Or if I go Windows Phone apps, it's gone. It's because I'm on the Express version. If I went to the community version, it would be there. And if I have time and I'm on the Azure side, and hopefully I will, they're rolling out so much stuff so fast. They actually announced the other day that you can actually build a website and add application insights from within Azure. So it's kind of weird. It's almost defeating the purpose of adding it here. But you can actually create a website, push your code up, and then add application insights. As long as it's maintained here and here, you can start talking to one another. So you can pull the code down and push the code up. And yeah, I was just like, oh man, so they're moving so fast. Just to give you an example, 2 weeks ago on the web tests, there was only 8 locations I could web test against. Now there's 16. So they've added like Auckland, New Zealand, and all these different areas of the world that you can test against.
It's crazy how fast they're moving.
Yeah, and so just to kind of give you an idea of why they're pushing it into Azure and why they want Azure to do it. So I'm going to take, like I said, a quick break, and when I come back, I'm going to live in the Azure space. So if you guys want to know all about the new preview portal, and you want to know what that all entails, and how you can work with your existing projects within preview portal, stick around and I'll show you that.